Good morning, it's May 12th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, yesterday, Title 42 expired. We've heard this term nonstop in the media for the past month, but how many of us really know what it is and what it means? Let me try to give a brief explanation. Title 42 is the name of an emergency health authority. It's a holdover from the Trump administration, and it began in March 2020. The authority allowed the United States officials to turn away migrants who come to the U.S.-Mexico border on the grounds of preventing the spread of COVID-19. Prior to the implementation of this new policy, migrants could cross illegally, ask for asylum, and be allowed into the United States. They were then screened and often released to wait out their immigration cases. Under Title 42, migrants were returned back over the border and denied the right to seek asylum. U.S. officials turned away migrants more than 2.8 million times. But there were no real consequences when someone illegally crossed the border. Thousands of these migrants were able to try again and again to cross and come off the chance they would get into the United States without being detected. When Joe Biden became president, he initially kept Title 42 in place after he took office, then tried to end its use in 2022. Republicans sued, arguing that the restrictions were necessary for border security. Courts have kept the rule in place, but the Biden administration announced in January that it was ending national COVID-19 emergencies, so the border restrictions are now going away. I think everybody knows that there's a major crisis on the border. Not according to Biden or Mayorkas, but thousands of immigrants have massed on the Mexican side of the border with the intent to cross over once Title 42 is declared ended. The Biden administration has finally acknowledged that they have a major problem on their hands, and they've been struggling to come up with a solution that will appease those on the left while trying to stem the tide of immigrants crossing the border. They've come up with a policy that allegedly cracks down on illegal immigrants crossing the border. Under this policy, immigrants caught crossing the border illegally supposedly will not be allowed to return for a 5-year period, and if they do, they can face criminal prosecution. This creates a dilemma for Biden because of pressure within his own party to allow migrants to enter the United States. Under U.S. and international law, anyone who comes to the United States can ask for asylum. People from all over the world come to the U.S.-Mexico border and seek asylum in the U.S., and they are screened, supposedly to determine whether they have a credible fear of persecution in their homeland. Their case, as I said, goes to the immigration court system to determine if they can stay in the U.S., but that process takes years. Normally, they're released in the U.S. to wait out their cases, and there's a significant amount of debate over how many of those actually show up for their court date. Under his new rules, the Biden administration will be turning away anyone seeking asylum who didn't first seek protection in the country they traveled through. And that's the overwhelming majority, because they're not really coming here for asylum, it's economic. Reasonable people looking at this problem, they understand that. They know these people are coming for economic, and the interviews with the media bear that out. I think it bears noting that we got into this situation. Democrats complained over and over that the Trump administration policies were cruel and inhuman. One of those policies was to remain in Mexico, and Biden ended that when he took office. That sent a signal out to migrants all over Latin America and many other parts of the world that the border was essentially open. All you had to do was cross the border and say, I want asylum. The result has been millions of migrants took that as an open door policy, and they've crossed the border in record numbers. Well, Biden's now trying to stem this tide because it's turning on him politically. He will try to stop this wave of illegal immigration, but in reality, he will fail because his heart is not in it. The president has ordered 1,500 U.S. troops to the border to work for do paperwork there to free up border agents to do more of their own work. And yesterday, the Homeland Security Secretary, Alexander Mayorkas, along with the State Department, announced they will now enforce Title 8 authority that allows for easier deportation of those who do not have a legal basis to remain. Basically, what they're saying is the Trump enforcement policies were useful to deter unchecked migration. So now we have to explain what Title 8 is and how it applies. According to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, Title 8 of the U.S. Code covers aliens and nationality. Under Title 8, non-citizens who cross the border illegally without a legal basis to remain will be processed for removal. This is what the Biden administration says they will implement to stem the tide, but you can be sure that those on the left will denounce this, and some will probably seek to stop it in the courts. But the numbers, which now top 6 million since Biden took office, and that's not counting the estimated 1.3 million getaways, are only going to grow. The president of Guatemala told members of Congress that another 80,000 are on the way from his country. He tried to call President Biden but couldn't get him to respond. We do have rumors of President Biden blowing up in meetings with his staff. We know that his border czar, Vice President Kamala Harris, she doesn't have a clue about either the problem or a solution. After lifting of Title 42, the surge at the border means that more and more immigrants will have to be shipped to cities around the nation. Cities that are not equipped to handle this influx and do not have the financial resources to take care of them. And that will lead to more homelessness and more crime. But not to worry, Biden and Mayorkas insist the problem at the border is under control. The border is secure, it's closed, and there is no crisis. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, hit the subscribe button and recommend it to your friends.